Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. I don't see anybody in the room yet, but come on in. Come on in. I don't know why these things are popping up. No pinned content. Okay, you guys, I have not been live for about a month, so I'm excited to be here. Welcome. If you are new to the group, if you don't know me, my name is Imari Ventura Rochez. I am a state licensed speech language pathologist. I said that crazy. I'm a state licensed speech language pathologist, an educational leader, and a special needs parenting coach. Welcome to Special Needs Super Moms, right? And good evening. I hope everybody's doing well. Tonight we're talking about motor speech disorders. So if you're watching, just say hello in the chat so I can know who's there. I know I have a viewer. Facebook gives some insights. I know I have some viewers. And so if you're watching the replay, hello to you, and drop a something in the comments to let me know what you think and what's going on. Apraxia of speech. Apraxia of speech. It's not very common, but there are kids out there with apraxia and adults too. Tonight we're gonna concentrate on childhood apraxia of speech. But let me know if your child has been diagnosed with apraxia, or if you are suspicious that your child may have apraxia of speech. Let me know. There are a lot of things to rule out, right? Because apraxia of speech can look like dysarthria, can look like stuttering. So it's important to know really what it is, okay? So let's get started. What is apraxia? I want you to know that apraxia is an umbrella term, okay? There are many different types of apraxias. Simply, it is the difficulty with skilled movements, all right? And we could break that into three parts. Difficulty with skilled movements, even when a person wants to use them, even when a person understands how to use them, and even when a person has no damage to the muscle, this all qualifies as apraxia. I just want to let you know that when we talk about motor and the domain of motor as one of the areas of human development, when we talk about motor, it's divided into two parts. Fine motor, and those are small muscles, right? Usually muscles from the waist and up. And then gross muscles, which are big muscles. And those are muscles when we talk about the human body from the waist down. So when we talk about apraxia, we're really referring to fine muscles, all right? I'm a speech pathologist, so I'm really focused on apraxia of speech as well as oral apraxia. But so for the purposes of this live, I'm referring to the jaw, the lips, tongue, the muscles of the mouth, okay? All right, so the origin of apraxia is neurological. So it's from the brain, okay? And by definition, the neurological system is our brain and spinal cord. So let's just do a little bit of anatomy and physiology. Shout out to our group. There are so many nurses. I didn't realize this until I got to talk to some of you individually. We have quite a few nurses in our groups who are caring for other people, helping to heal people during the day, during their jobs. And then they come home at night and they are caring for their child with special needs. So lots of respect. Shout out. I celebrate you, nurses who are very important. My son is making a lot of noise. I know what he's about, and I need to help him. Give me 1 second. I thank you so much for your patience. Okay, so let's get into it. The origin is neurological, the brain and the spinal cord. So you have to imagine that even to do this, you guys, it takes a lot of messaging from the brain to my finger to plan out the motor movements, to carry them out, and to do it. Okay, and so the brain and the spinal cord have nerves, and those nerves innervate muscles. Okay, so the message goes from the brain across the nerve and into the muscle, telling the muscle what to do. In apraxia, there's a difficulty with that motor planning and the brain telling the muscle what to do. There's a breakdown. So in apraxia, the brain cannot deliver the correct movement instructions to the body. All right. Apraxia of speech. Well, apraxia of speech is affects two different populations. There is acquired apraxia of speech, and so that really occurs in adults. It results from a stroke, a traumatic brain injury, a stroke, or a brain illness. So that's separate from what we're here to talk about. And then there's childhood apraxia of speech, which is present in children. It occurs at birth. Hey, I see you. We have a nurse on the chat now, so thumbs up to you. Thank you so much. Apraxia, childhood apraxia of speech occurs in children. It's present at birth. The origin is unclear, right? It's easier to look at the adult brain and to figure out what happened because it's fully formed. We know what a healthy brain looks like. We can, through imaging, see where the problem happened, and we can diagnose as a stroke, as a traumatic brain injury, right? We can see where the injury is. But with children at birth, it's much more difficult. So that's the difference. Let me tell you some of the symptoms of apraxia of speech. So, inconsistent speech. So a child may pronounce a word different at different times. Distorted sounds, okay? There's certainly a couple things you have to rule out. Does the child, are they bilingual and learning another language, right? That's something. Are they dysfluent? Like, are they stuttering? That's something to rule out. But distorted sounds is most certainly a symptom of apraxia. You have to forgive me. I'm looking down at my notes. Error in tones, okay? Every language has intonation that accompanies the meaning. And so when there are constant errors in tones, that is a symptom of apraxia of speech. Difficulty with multisyllabic or long words is a symptom of apraxia of speech. Difficulty imitating sounds, right? And that's something that would be picked up in evaluation because we're constantly asking children to repeat, to imitate. And so having a difficulty with that in the midst of the other symptoms is a symptom of apraxia. Difficulty with mouth and throat muscles, right? And we have to understand that orofacial and the neck and throat muscles, right, are innervated. The nerves come from the central nervous system. And so there will be some difficulty in the movement of the muscles of the throat and the mouth. Understanding more language than expressing it, right? That's a symptom of some other things too, but certainly children with apraxia will understand better than they can produce. Sound substitutions, right? Definitely a symptom of apraxia. I want to say that as it pertains to sounds, this is important. With phonological disorders, the sound error is consistent, right? So the child is consistently mispronouncing, for example, or s, or b, or it's consistent. But with apraxia, there's no rhyme or rhythm. It's very inconsistent. So that's something important to mention. And then lastly, another symptom of apraxia is leaving off final consonants. That is a feature that's evident in a lot of things. And it's, I mean, some dialects, right? Across of our United States, some dialects of English leave off the final consonant. So certainly we cannot take any of these in isolation. We really have to have them all together. And then within each symptom, we have to discern what is what, okay? So those are the symptoms of apraxia of speech. Okay. What is not apraxia? Now that I've told you what the symptoms are, what is not apraxia? And I'll tell you, this is important because most times when people come to a speech pathologist, they're coming because of some sort of articulation and phonological disorder, right? And so the speech pathologist is really the only qualified person who can really look at oral musculature, who can look at fine motor development in the oral musculature, but who can also really analyze linguistics and put it all together to make a diagnosis. So apraxia is not a developmental delay. Okay? It's not a developmental delay. If you guys go back into the archives and you look at the live that I did, a Facebook live that I did either this year, the beginning of this year, or last year, it was entitled Delay versus Disorder. And we spoke about what's the difference. In developmental delay, the child is on track for normal development. They're just attaining their milestones slower, okay? I think I even also mentioned this when we spoke about the milestones and how the CDC has changed them. Developmental delay is when a child is on track for normal development, but they are acquiring their milestones slower than everybody else. They're getting there, but just at a slower rate. Apraxia is not that, okay? It's not gonna just fix itself. Without therapy and targeted intervention, it does not get better. So apraxia is not developmental delay. Apraxia is not autism. I know in this group we speak a lot about autism. Amongst all the special needs that there are, we speak a lot about autism, but apraxia is not autism. It's not an autism spectrum disorder. A child with autism can have a secondary diagnosis of apraxia, but autism is not apraxia, and it's not even one of the symptoms of autism. Apraxia is not Down syndrome, right? Even though we see flaccid musculature in Down syndrome, it's not that. It's not stuttering. Apraxia is not stuttering. With therapy, and you know how we can really see this? The therapy approaches are so different for apraxia of speech and for stuttering. They're so different. They're not the same thing. Apraxia is not dysarthria. That's a funny word. Apraxia is not dysarthria. Dysarthria is muscle weakness. And it's kind of the opposite of apraxia. And I'm talking about that, I mean like the other side of the nerve. In apraxia, there's a problem with the brain, not the muscle. In dysarthria, there's a problem with the muscle, not the brain. Okay. Apraxia is not ADHD. Apraxia is not respiratory distress. And then this one is tricky, the last one, okay? And I don't want to confuse anybody, but I have to say it. Apraxia is not necessarily a feeding disorder. And what do I mean by that? When you start to get into the literature about apraxia, there are a couple of divisions within so there's, I told you that apraxia is inability to use fine muscles. And so apraxia just is not about speech. But there is oral apraxia and there is verbal apraxia. I don't want to confuse anybody. Verbal apraxia impacts speech sound production. Oral apraxia impacts feeding. It's two different things. Because we use our mouths and our articulators. We use our mouths, our jaw, our tongue, our throat. We use that for both. We use it for eating and we use it for speaking. So when there is a difficulty in coordinating the muscles, when there's a difficulty in the brain sending messages to those muscles, the nerves that innervate those muscles, it can be oral apraxia or verbal apraxia. Okay? If you have a question about that, a specific question about that pertaining to your child, personal message me or email me, because it can be confusing. And if you need me to talk through, and you need to speak to me about the symptoms and then clinical opinion, I can do that. Okay? One last thing about oral apraxia. There's even a subdivision under that called oral motor dyspraxia. Okay, but that's enough. I don't want anybody to get confused. So, evaluation of apraxia. There is no one single evaluation for apraxia of speech. There's not one single evaluation. The speech pathologist has to see the child. We do oral motor evaluations and articulation. From there, they can rule out what it may be or what it may not be. But all in all, you have to go to the speech pathologist and describe the symptoms and speak to them and allow the child to see them. If the child has other fine motor disorders, then more than likely it could be apraxia. Okay? Just because, remember, these muscles of the mouth, oral facial muscles, are fine motor muscles. They're small muscles. The tongue is like the smallest. There's even something called ocular motor apraxia, and that's the ability to move the muscles of the eyes. So apraxia is not just about the mouth. Okay, how's it treated in therapy? So during therapy, well, let me tell you, like I said before, without therapy, apraxia does not get any better. It's almost like I spoke to you guys a few months ago when I did feeding. I did feeding in ASD. Apraxia of speech does not get better on its own. A child doesn't just grow out of it. No. A child can grow out of stuttering. They can. A person can develop strategies, techniques. They can grow through and out of stuttering with therapy. Absolutely. A child can grow out of articulation disorders and delays with therapy. Absolutely. Phonemic awareness. A child could grow out of phonemic awareness. Yes, absolutely. But apraxia of speech doesn't just get better. Okay, remember, because the origin is neurological. That means the foundation, in the brain, there's an issue with delivering the message to the muscles. You guys, you have to think of it like electricity through a wire. Really, that's how it looks, right? The message is sent to the nerve and it goes down that myelin, and that nerve innervates the muscle and tells it what to do. That's what it's like a telephone cord, right? And so in apraxia, it won't just get better on its own, because the brain has to be retrained. And that's really what it is. The muscle has to be retrained, and the brain is retrain to then coordinate. The speech pathologist must retrain the muscles for speech using repetition during one-on-one intervention. Okay, so you guys know that I'm a therapist. I believe in one-on-one therapy, but you also know that I'm an administrator. So that means that I am concerned about economy also, right? How many children do we have? How many therapists do we have? How can we get everybody seen in the district? I have to make these type of decisions. And so I have to say, apraxia of speech is something that should be treated one-on-one. Really, because it requires that one-on-one attention, and it requires trials, back-to-back trials, and direct instruction and corrective feedback, right? Meaning, no, not like this, do it like this. So if your child does have apraxia and they are receiving school-based speech therapy, please advocate for one-on-one individualized therapy, okay? School districts have a lot of kids to see, especially if there's a high special education need. There are only a certain amount of therapists. Since COVID, the numbers have just shrunk. In a lot of places, there are no therapists. There's not that many in the state. You guys, I'm licensed in 3 states. I won't say which state it is, but one of the states that I'm licensed in, my ID number is just 4 digits. And I come from New York, where there's just like so many people. So then when I got licensed in this other state and my ID number was just 4 digits, I said, wow, there's just not that many of us, right? Because out of that couple of thousand, many have retired, some are not practicing. So advocate for one-on-one, even if it's a high need district that you're in, even if they say there are not that many therapists, please advocate for one-on-one therapy, because that's the only way you're going to see a difference in apraxia of speech. Or you have to go privately, but your child needs that intensity and that frequency. Okay. What can parents do? Because this is important, and I know so many. I post about it. I'm open. I talk to so many parents a day, and everybody's very different, and it varies. But I do speak with some parents who are heavily vested, who want to spend time, who want to work with their children. You know, if you've listened to my lives before, I think it's great. Always try practical, functional activities that you can embed in every day. And then for small children, I'm always saying 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the night, right? Which is distributed practice, much more effective than mass practice, trying to do 30 minutes at one time or an hour at one time. That's really not that effective. So break it up, make it small. Parents can help with apraxia of speech, absolutely. So, before I get to that point, the other thing about the speech pathologist, this is top. Very early in my career, I went to the Prompt Institute and I became prompt trained. And what it means is that I learned I learned how to touch a child's mouth, right? For every sound of the English, for every phoneme of the English alphabet, and how to give a sensory input to their mouth using my hands for a motor output. And I have to say, even to this day, right? I said early in my career, which we're talking like a little bit over 15 years. To this day, I believe prompt therapy is the most effective treatment for apraxia of speech. I do. Because we are retraining the muscles with physical touch. And the sensory input, right? The sensation of my fingers on your mouth yields a motor output. So if the therapist who's going to work with your child with apraxia, ask if they are prompt trained. Okay, there are different levels of, it's like a $1,000 course that therapists do independently often, and meaning their job might not pay for it. And they're different levels. You're prompt trained, you're prompt certified, and then it just keeps going on and more intense. But to be trained is the basic level. And then there's communities that we keep up with ongoing. Ask if your therapist is prompt, P-R-O-M-P-T, prompt trained, because that makes all the difference. That will make intervention go faster. That will make intervention go faster. Okay? All right. So what can parents do? Practice forming and pronouncing sounds and words, right? Practice, because the more that you use it, the better it will be, right? That's a principle of neuroplasticity. The more you use it, the better it will get. So continue to use it. If you're saying for example, right? Keep doing it. The repetition matters a lot in muscle retraining. So keep doing that. But you start with sounds and then start with small words. Okay? Practice stringing together sounds to make speech. Okay, so could be syllables, ma, 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 right? Da, 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 da. Could be syllables. Could be, yes, syllables, and then stringing them together again and again and again. This works, and this is something that parents can do at home with no problem. Working with rhythms, beats, or melodies. So a quick point about this. This whole time in Apraxia, we're speaking about muscles, right? Fine muscles. When we think about muscles, we have to always consider strength, coordination, and range of motion, okay? Working with rhythms or beats or melodies is helpful because a lot of connected speech, what impacts connected speech is the coordination of muscles, and coordination is influenced by timing, okay? So this is, I would say, is at the higher levels when a child is able to speak and is coordinated, their muscles are coordinated and they're intelligible. I would say you can download a metronome, metro, M-E-T-R-O, nome, N-O-M-E, it's one word. Download a metronome beat on your phone, right? Go to the App Store and type that in, and it's just a beat. And you can make it faster or slower. This is what we use for stuttering clients, and it helps their prosody, it helps the tempo, it helps the natural flow of speech and the coordination piece of it. It helps intelligibility overall when we can get them to speak on a rhythm. In the beginning, they might sound robotic, but it's really helping to give shape to the message, okay? Lastly, parents can form words while looking in the mirror, okay? So the mirror is very helpful. The mirror, it's like every speech pathologist has a mirror in their therapy bag. The mirror is helpful because it's giving real-time feedback on how the mouth is moving, okay? And so that's important for a child to see, as well as hear, as well as the prompt physical touch while they're all working. It all integrates together to help solidify the skill. All right. So if your child does have apraxia and you do want to work at home, you can certainly practice forming words and pronouncing sounds and words in the mirror. Okay. One mirror for them and one mirror for you. Don't try to share like a compact mirror. Everybody gets their own mirror, and continue to practice in that at home. All right. It's a lot of fun, and they might feel real ownership over what they're doing if they have their own mirror. All right. And that's pretty much it. I really enjoyed this today. I want to let you know that I am offering oral motor and articulation screenings, okay? During the month of September, I offered language screenings, and I did work with some people, and I worked on I administered receptive and expressive language screenings. But for this month of October, I am working on speech. And so I'm offering oral motor and articulation screenings for 1 week only, not for the whole month of October, but for the week of October 21st to October 25th for children age 5 to 21 living in New York, Connecticut, or Massachusetts. I am doing those screenings virtually, and you get a write-up. Okay, I'm going to advertise this. I'll put together a marketing piece, and I'll post it, right, so you guys know the details and you can read the fine print. But if you don't know, right, if your child is very unintelligible and you just don't know what's the matter and you have no idea what it could be, and you don't even know where to start to ask questions, and you don't know, you can't even you don't have the language to support your observations to share with the pediatrician, and it's so frustrating and confusing, reach out to me and I will help you, okay? The purpose of a screening is to determine if further testing is needed. All right, so that's what this is. During the screening, I'll be able to not give you a diagnosis, but I can tell you if additional testing is needed, okay? But you have to live in New York, Connecticut, or Massachusetts. The child needs to be 5 to 21 years old. I do ask for proof of residency, okay? So that you can show me that the child does indeed reside in one of those 3 states. It's completely virtual, and I will, as we approach those dates, October 21st to October 25th, I will post a flyer as well as my booking link so that you guys can sign up for the screening as needed. This was wonderful. Remember, if you have any questions, because I know this was a lot of information, it might be new to some people, but if you need any help in this area of motor speech disorders, please reach out to me. Do let me know. I'm happy to meet with you guys to set up a consultation. My consultations are free, and really to get to the bottom of what's going on. Okay? This was wonderful. Next Thursday, I'm going to be speaking on a podcast. So I'll put thank you, Libari. Thank you. I'm glad that you learned a lot. Next week, you guys, I will be on this podcast. I'm going to put out the flyer so that anybody who wants to come on and listen can. And then last thing, this is important. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I talk to moms all day long, and already this month, it's just the 10th, I've met 2 moms who are both living in domestic violence shelters. So okay, women in this group have children. Most women in this group have children with special needs, and that carries its own burden, and that's very hard. But we have to be so grateful for what we have, because these moms are really struggling for the safety of their lives, the safety of their children's lives, and to educate their children and continue to move forward with them, getting them the best education, understanding their IEP, all of that in a safe environment with their basic needs met and their boundaries. So just remember that it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and be sensitive to those around you, okay? It was so good to see you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Libari. Thank you for everybody watching live and watching the replay. I'll talk to you later. Have a good night. Take care and bye.